2 years ago, I was in a full-time position at work, and like a lot of people in the world, had aspirations of working for myself and making a full-time career out of being creative. At this point in my life, I had experienced working minimum wage jobs in industries I had no interest in, just as a means of making rent. And I'd also worked quite comfortable salary positions where I enjoyed the team, I enjoyed the environment, but still didn't quite feel like I'd made it. My whole life I've been a creative, but I never really knew exactly how to monetize my work and make a good living off of being self-employed. In this video, I'm going to run through my timeline of events since having left my full-time job less than 2 years ago to having now launched my own creative agency and working as an internationally recognized filmmaker every single month. Since leaving my full-time job, I've tripled my income and worked with some brands that I never thought I'd be able to work with. Some of these include Nike, Ministry of Sound, Beats by Dre, Adidas, and Ultra Music Festival, all of which felt extremely unattainable when I was a full-time employee. Since leaving my job to pursue creativity, there have been 8 defining moments that have gotten me to where I am today of being a business owner and launching my own creative agency, which I'm going to run you through. There's obviously so much more than that that's happened, but I've been able to identify the top 8 moments that changed my trajectory and pushed me further towards success. For each one of these, I've also extracted the lesson that I learned so that you guys can have my learnings over the last 2 years that have gotten me from full-time employee to creative business owner. At the end of this video, I'm also going to give you 3 bits of knowledge that you can apply today, which are crucial to creative success, and having applied them will give you extremely high chances at attaining your creative goals. So without further ado, let's get stuck in and start at stage 1, quitting my job. Now I'm going to make a guess that because you've clicked into this video, you're interested in leaving your job behind and pursuing your creative endeavors full-time. Congratulations, that is an amazing spot to be. I was in the exact same position and at this point had already been working pretty hard for about 5 years towards becoming a better filmmaker, but still just hadn't found that exact moment that was going to be the breaking point to going full-time. Then after 5 years of freelancing on the side, I got the biggest opportunity of my life come in. A major artist toured to Australia and New Zealand, sold out every single city, and I was the tour videographer for that run of shows. Now these artists in particular are some of the biggest in the world, A-listers, and I got to fly all over the country with them and shoot all their shows. And it's just an example of, after doing enough hard work on the side, one of these moments will come in for you and it will be defining. Now the lesson that I learned here was that this job paid 4 to 5 times more than what I was used to earning in a week as a full-time employee. So in theory, if I allowed myself the time and quit my job, I should be able to make 4 to 5 times my income just by being a freelancer. This leads us on to stage 2, where I'm actively touring. So at this point, I quit my job and I'm self-employed. Streamer in the background. I worked really hard on that first big gig, like overtime, to make sure that I'd done the best job, and because there was obviously competition, they had to decide between me and other people. So I wanted to make sure that they could see that I was the right decision. Having done a really good job at that first tour caused like a bit of a chain reaction of you've now broken into the space, and if you continue to prove yourself, you'll continue to get booked. And that's exactly what happened. I was touring every single month, all over the country, doing different shows, and yeah, it felt great at that point. The lesson here is that I was right. Having freed up my time put me in a position that most people weren't, which was being available every single day of the week. And sometimes on these sorts of jobs, you need to be able to say yes to being available on a Wednesday, and when you're a full-time employee, you just can't do that. So having been the guy that was always available, I'm now constantly getting booked on weekdays, and my income is the same as it was at my full-time job by this point, but I still have 70% more of my time available. Moving on, we end up at stage 3, which is life lessons. Now you can imagine at this point, I'm at the top of the mountain in terms of how I feel, how business is going, and how my creativity is flowing. And I don't mean to put a dampener on this video, but at this moment I lost my grandmother, which was a really tough time for me because everything was going so well. And it kind of was this moment where I was like, it reminded me, no matter how well you're doing, no matter how well life's going for you, something will bring you down, something will bring you back to reality. And that was a moment where I had to touch grass a little and step back from the touring a bit and step back from all the creativity flowing. And, you know, in a sense, I was probably grateful that I didn't have a full-time job to have to continue going to whilst being in this moment of sorrow. She was the most beautiful woman who was there every step of my life, and to have lost someone so significant at a time of my life that was so significant was really a challenge. The reason I've chosen to include this is because of the lesson in it, which is that it's not all sunshine and rainbows. This was obviously a really big moment that happened in my big life moment. So I took it really slow here, just had a month to reset, touch grass, and accept that life's a roller coaster. Now stage 4, moving across the world. Where'd that one come from? I know, bit of a curveball. How did we get here? At this point, my partner and I had full control over our lives. I'm obviously self-employed and she does contract work, so she just finished her last big contract. And we'd always wanted to travel the world together, so we were there one night and we thought, should we just move to London? Should we just move to the other side of the world together? And we did it. We went and got our visas. We gave ourselves a date 3 months time from now where we were gonna pack up our bags and fly to the other side of the world. And we did it. This all happened very quick and I was quite nervous, to be honest, about how this was gonna go as a freelancer because, you know, I'm operating successfully in Australia. I've got clientele, I've got principles that I'm applying that are working, I'm making money, everything's good, but were those same principles going to translate to the other side of the world? Or was I going to lose the ability to be self-employed? The lesson here is that sometimes your hometown can be quite restrictive and there are much larger opportunities in other places of the world. This was a moment where we had to trust our instincts, and my partner is also creative. I feel like people didn't quite understand why we're doing what we're doing, why we would pack up and move to London. And that's okay, not everyone's going to understand the life of a creative. The same way I don't understand what it's like to be in finance. Someone in finance isn't going to understand creativity, and that's okay. Not everyone around you is going to get it, but we knew that we were onto something and we knew that it was going to work. Now I'm just going to take a second to mention the sponsor of this video, which is Artlist. Artlist is where I go to get all my high quality music and sound effects for creative projects. So if you need really good music and sound effects to complement your visuals or any of your creative projects, you can pick up 2 free months on the annual plan in the description below. Let's get back into things. Stage 5, London, the setup. So we've done it. We moved to central London, got our own apartment, and just got stuck straight into the creative scene, trying to work it all out. At this point, I had very few connections, if like none at all. Anyone that said they were going to put me onto work kind of didn't. It didn't really go that way. And that's the thing as well, is you have to create your own success. No one's going to do it for you. And that was something I realized coming out here, is that people say, oh, I'm going to put you on. Yeah, as soon as you get there, I'm going to put you on. I got this opportunity for you, this and that. Like, don't count on it. If you have to bet on anything, bet against it. It's probably not going to happen. You need to get out there, you need to get stuck in, and you need to just build your own opportunities, your own network of people, and go get it. I was a bit under this false impression that the work that I'd done in Australia was just going to set me up and I was just already going to be on a level. And that just wasn't the case. You know, a few things eventuated from it, but I still had to work very, very hard to get to a position that I'm in now. And any of the success that I've had out here was self-induced just by doing good, hard work. At this point, I'm trying really hard to make sure I don't fall back into 9 to 5. This is a defining moment because London's expensive, yeah? Like, I got overheads out here, rent's expensive. Like, this place is not easy to live in. We live in zone 1, yeah? Like, it's not easy. So it was a defining moment for me. Was I going to end up back in 9 to 5 because I was getting swallowed by bills? And if I did, I probably wasn't going to make it back out. So I'm working tirelessly to make sure that this works out, you know, 60, 70-hour weeks of self-employed work in any form. Eventually I got my first tour to Amsterdam, which was cool. And that was the first kind of hint at success out here as well. The lesson here is be the hardest worker and the biggest opportunity seeker at all times. I'm in a few different networking chats with filmmakers and creatives, and that's a big thing, is get involved in networks, try and figure out what's going on because they're out there. You just got to you got to build a reputation. Someone needs to know you, then you get added in. I took absolutely everything that was available in those chats, even the crap that no one wanted to do. I took it. I was the one that did it. And those weren't my big clients, but they led me to them. I got scouted out here because of how good my work was on low clients. I was ready to do anything. So I'm rocking up in these jobs and I'm crushing it. I'm doing more than anyone would do on a job that's maybe lower paying and not a big reputable client. So then people are seeing this work and going, oh my God, this guy's crazy. And then they're connecting me with someone that they know. And then that person's connecting me with the next person. And then 2 or 3 steps away from that original job, I'm working with people like Nike and Ministry of Sound. There are people in these networking chats that haven't been able to quit their jobs yet, but they're not putting their hands up for everything that's available, and that's probably the reason why. Stage 6, London, the rise. Now was the time for my first European summer, and my goal was to get booked once in Europe in the summer. By the end of the summer, I'd done something like 19 international jobs, working with literally the biggest brands in the world and some of the biggest artists in the world as well, all on my own clock, all being self-employed. No agency, no management, straight to the source, straight to me. Now it goes to show, this is something I always think back to, is people have asked me in the past, what's the plan B? There isn't one. I don't have one. This must work. This will work. There is no other option. I will not accept failure. And having that mentality and being at my desk day in and day out and just trying to become the best filmmaker that is available. Obviously, I've still got a long way to go, but having that hunger and drive for success will get you there. At this point, it's 12 months since having left my job. I'm now rebuilding my savings plan, which is hard as a freelancer. When you work for yourself, you're self-employed, your income fluctuates. It's a difficult thing. I'm investing money again, which is something I was doing when I was full-time, but then you leave your job, your income's a bit unstable. You don't know whether you should be investing money because you don't even know if you're making enough money. But by 12 months, these things were coming back into my life. So the summer was full of work. I did something like 27 music festivals, which just wouldn't exist in my hometown. And this leads me on to the lesson here, which is a quote that I absolutely love. The world belongs to those who can work without seeing the results of their continued work. If you stick to it, all your hard work will pay off. The world needs people like you and I. Do you know how much money is spent worldwide on like marketing and advertising? It'd be a ridiculous number, okay? But people need material to advertise with. The amount of work that's available out there is ridiculous. You just need to go and find it. This leads us into stage 7, the quiet period. Now, people are always out there saying, what are you gonna do when it's not so busy, when the quiet period finally hits? Personally, I can't vouch for this because I've seen a pretty steady incline since having left my job. I can't say there's been a substantial dip, and I think that's because of just being hungry enough to always find the next job. Now, I'm not going to rule this off entirely because I understand people's situations are unique and there will be, busier and quieter periods. Right now, it's just hit winter in London, right? So there's no festivals, there's no big outdoor events that I was used to doing in the summer. But what I've done here is locked in retainers, and retainers are a great way for you to get through quiet periods. Winter, which is what's meant to be the quiet period for people, has become quite fruitful for myself because I've got retainers in place that pay me every single month. The lesson here is to just think ahead, be ahead of the ball, be aware of when times of the year might be a bit quieter, and spend time in the lead up to that building relations with people. Have people that you can reach out to in business, or that are business owners or brand owners that you can reach out to and say, hey, let's work the whole winter together. That's what I'm doing right now to get through the winter, and my winter months are in many cases bigger than my summer months. So don't just accept by default, this is the low period, it's not gonna work. With the right relationships, you can make it work, and you can make it work even better. Stage 8, launching my own agency. I can't believe I'm here talking about this right now. It's been less than 2 years since I left my full-time job to pursue creativity, to pursue my passions. And I've ended up in a position of having more work than I can keep up with, which has led me to launch my own creative agency where I can utilize the power of other creatives and put other people onto projects. And just recently I built a team of 8 people to do a full commercial production. Like, that is just so surreal to me. And I want this to be a message to people out there that are ambitious and that are pursuing their goals of creativity, is that you can make a successful living from it. You don't have to be in the trenches just because you chose your passions. A common misconception that many creatives tend to get, including my previous self, is that just because you love something so much, you become less valuable by it. That is absolutely not the case. When you are super extremely passionate about your form of creativity, you become more powerful, you become more valuable. The price tag on your service goes up, not down by that. And when you feel passionate towards something outwardly, you show the world every single day how much you care about your craft. People gravitate towards that. It's magnetic and people want to be around it, and people that need creative services gravitate towards you. The lesson here is that there is enough work and money in this world to go around. If you believe anything in this world to be true, it will be. And that applies both positively and negatively. I can reassure you that having gotten to a point of launching an agency wouldn't have happened if I was still in my hometown, where people didn't understand, why would you move to London? I didn't know back then that I was gonna launch an agency in 12 months, but I knew it was gonna work. I knew that I was onto something. That's not to say you need to leave your home, but there's positioning strategies that you can consider to put yourself in better areas. Now, we're getting towards the end of this, and as promised, I'm gonna finish up with 3 bits of knowledge that will absolutely help in your quest towards getting to that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. The first is that people will come and go, and so will business opportunities. So don't be emotionally attached to the work that you're doing. As you continue to grow, what used to be your biggest opportunities can become your smallest. So just be prepared for that to happen, and don't be emotionally attached. Secondly, if you believe that it will work, it will work. If you believe that it will fail, it will fail. You need to be delusional in your quest for success. You want to aim so far that even falling short is much further than you originally were. In many ways, I still feel behind, but that's because of how high I've set my goals, and having set them that high is very much the reason why I am where I am today. The third is that you always need to work on your craft, relationship building, and business knowledge. If you apply all three of these things together, you'll be good. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to stick around, and I'll see you in the next video.